We're starting the YouTube stream here in a second.
Okay.
I'll let you know when we're good. We're starting the, okay, we're good.
Okay, good evening, everybody. It's, what time is it? Anybody have a clock? It's 7:33.
7:33.
And I'll take attendance. I guess I got to do it orally here. So I'm here.
I think you have to say, I think for the record, I'm not positive. I think you have to say like Peter Goodney.
Okay,
You
Peter
just say your
Goodney,
name.
I'm here. Mr. Mello?
Here.
Yep.
Hi.
Lee Perrin?
Here.
Tim Fling?
Here.
Peter Lapine?
Sort of here, I guess.
Peter, are you here? Okay. Looks like he's signed in though, right? But he's not answering. Lisa Dunderdale?
Here.
Here. Cynthia Foster?
Here.
Okay, so everybody but Peter.
It looks like he dropped off.
Let's give him a minute to re-sign in, because I think maybe that's what the problem is. While we do that, do we have a scribe for the evening? Or maybe Peter was smart and he just signed off until that business got done. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
I'm really sorry, but this week and next week I am straight out. I cannot do it this time.
I know. Yeah, that was a great
Lisa,
job.
if we beg you.
I'll do them for tonight. Let's keep it
Okay.
short though.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
And I meant to get you the notes last week earlier, so you could just use those as a guide and maybe save you some time, because I was writing everything down. I got so busy, and then,
I know.
you pretty much hit you did an awesome job on that too, so.
It looks like
Peter, you
Peter's
here?
back.
You're gonna turn on your microphone. Peter,
Peter, we can't hear you.
There we go. Uh-oh.
Can you talk? Can you say hello?
yeah, it looks like, Peter, can you hear us?
No.
We can't
Check
hear
to
you.
see if your computer's on mute, because I did that. Check to see if your computer is on mute.
He's got the little microphone signal with the red. There you go. How about now?
No, we can't hear you.
Yeah,
Try
Peter,
your computer, like where you change your volume. It may be on mute.
would be a physical button, Peter.
I think I can hear a little bit of them now.
You might need to pick up your, increase your speaker, your volume.
I can hear you very, very, very little.
Faintly.
There we go. You're good. Oh,
No.
never mind.
No. Pete, can you try one more time, Peter, to see if we can hear you?
No.
I assume by him squinting, he's trying to figure it out on the computer.
Peter, look at what Tim just sent you. Just restart your computer from scratch and log back in and see if that resets the audio.
Yeah, maybe if he uses his phone for the audio,
Colin.
yeah, that might work.
We do have 2 attendees tonight. We have Kevin Farrington and Sam Stivers.
Great.
Okay.
Here it comes.
Oh, we're gonna get some feedback loops, guys.
So do you have to let Peter in as a caller? Like,
No, because he's signing in from the same link that he has permission to be a panelist from.
it'll all go through. Oh, there
You can hear me now?
I
Yeah.
can. Great.
Yeah, okay, so I've got it.
Oh, it's,
Now you have an echo. You gotta shut your speakers off on your laptop or your computer.
There we go.
Perfect. Peter, we just did a roll call, and could you just say your name that you're here, please?
Peter Lapine here.
Okay, we have everybody here. Okay, we have a volunteer for scribe already, so you planned that out perfectly, Peter.
you get it next week or our next meeting.
Did everybody get a chance to look at the meeting minutes that were posted? And I'm ready to make a motion to accept those meeting minutes as presented. I'm also willing to take any if anybody wants to add or subtract or make any corrections. So motion on the floor to accept those meetings as presented.
Peter, I actually sent another version out. I needed to put in the names of the ayes and nays. So I did that. I don't know if everyone saw that. I think I sent it out maybe around 4 this afternoon.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to get to this, but if we want to just go through it real quick, we could probably just sort that out and clean it up.
Sure.
What was the votes that you're looking for?
So it was on number 9. And I noticed that I forgot to include Cindy when we called the meeting at the end of the night. So I added her in too.
It's okay, if you're going for A's and A's, I know I was an A on that, so be a yes. What's the best way for us to do this?
Yeah, I'm afraid to look at it. I might lose my link here, so I can't really even see it, but I
So,
remember reading it. It was-
Tim, can you pull it up?
Yeah, let me
Share
There it
screen.
is. Okay, I got it.
yeah, let me share my screen. I can do that. I have that power, guys.
Wow.
Good.
I don't know if I can too, but
You can, I can give everybody permission.
At least that was just on the last page, adding Cindy, right?
yes, adding
Okay.
Cindy, and then for the 2 votes we took on 9 around public meetings in person, there were 2 nays and 5 nays. No, 2, sorry, opposite.
Yeah,
So I had to add names, but I did send it out earlier with those corrections.
okay.
I'm sharing my screen, so I think we should be on the same page. Lisa, is this easiest if you just update this as we go through this real quick? Like on your side?
So I can't get to this, right?
No, this is just a PDF, it looks like, right? Oh, no, it actually is a
It's a document.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the first one. She
Yeah, but I sent another one
oh,
this afternoon.
Early afternoon.
yeah.
Yeah. Right there. I needed to add names.
this one.
Yep. Sorry, can't see the screen.
I just have questions to be addressed.
Those
Yeah,
are the,
those are. Oh, it didn't. Oh, I thought I added both of them.
Oh, wait, hold on. Never 9:48 a.m. Okay, I think I found it. Let me download the correct thing. I'll pull it back up here in a second.
The trouble is, it's tiny on the display.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Lisa, the only change is the names of the people, how they voted. Is that the only
Yes.
change that you did? Okay.
Yep.
So we just have to make sure that we obviously have the correct names that wrote it the correct way, so.
So if you want to know for the first one, the nay was Peter. And
Okay,
then
so that's
the-
number 9, right?
Peter, yep. Peter Lapine.
Yeah,
And then, I don't know if that's the right one.
yeah, that's the right one, yeah.
So did I add that in? Yeah, there you go.
Is it capital P or lowercase p?
Capital.
Capital.
And the second vote,
Yep.
It was
the second nays, the 2 nays.
Peter and Cindy.
Okay, so it looks like he's gonna put in all the yays. And that looks like a pretty good representation of what the meeting will progress in that meeting. So I have a motion on the floor to accept those minutes as they're being corrected right now, but does anybody want to second that?
I'll
Second.
Okay, Lee, I have you as seconding it.
That's fine.
And what I'll do is, once those are done, I'll send those to the town clerk, and those will be the formal meeting minutes. Thank you guys for that.
We still need to take the vote.
Oh, okay, you're right. Thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented?
You have to do a roll call.
Yeah. John,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Cynthia.
Aye.
Perfect.
It's so much easier if you can just say absent objection, the minutes will be accepted. There is no objection. The minutes are accepted, but they don't let us do that, do they?
Oh, they don't? Okay.
Yeah. I think all votes, I think they said have to be a roll.
Roll call.
Sam has a mechanical suggestion coming in here. All right.
Sam popped up something, but I didn't see it quick enough.
Line numbers to the Word document instead of numbers.
Okay.
Numbers.
That's a good idea, Sam.
Thank you,
Okay,
Sam.
so on the agenda, I'm going down the agenda quick. The next one is enforcement tactics, and kind of what I meant by that was, I think we have to pick a path on how we're going to go forward. And what I mean by that is there's 2 kinds of paths a law goes through, and that's an objective standard and a subjective standard. And I think we have to pick that. I can explain a little bit what I mean by that. For instance, there's 2 speeding laws on the books for speeding. One is an absolute speeding law, where if you go 31 miles an hour in a 30 zone, that's speeding, and you can get found responsible for speeding. There's also speeding greater than reasonable and proper, which is a different chapter, and that is more subjective. It takes in the totality of the circumstances. That could actually be 29 miles an hour in a 30 zone, but if it's a snowstorm, or if you're on a flat tire or something, there's extenuating circumstances. I think where we mentioned a lot about decibels and instruments, that would kind of go along the line of the objective path, where 1 decibel over, boom, that's it, it's a violation. The other ones where you look at like the totality of the circumstances, maybe some time, some dates, some equipment, whatever, however we want to deal with it, that's a different path. So I think we should probably try and settle that idea early on, which path we want to go, because they will definitely conflict in the future. Does that make sense with everybody? So I kind of want to open it up to discussion, and I think I'll go through to each person and see what their thoughts are on that. And I'm gonna keep the same, I got a list, I'll just keep the same list that I've been calling everybody on. So, John, you're gonna be first.
Great. So just for clarity, you know, as an engineering sort of educated person, I understand both the, you know, qualitative and quantitative. I don't want, my inclination is to keep it as simple as possible and also empower our, you know, our police officers to be able to manage the situation when it occurs. And I don't have the experience or the knowledge to understand which way to go, but that's my only inclination, is keep it as simple as possible, but make it also reasonably enforceable by the police officers who are going to be put in the situation to deal with, you know, stressful situations, both from our citizens and other sort of situations.
So would you be more apt to look at like the metering devices, like the decibel type, that kind of a strategy, or the other kind?
Personally speaking, I would want to eliminate as many additional burden on the police officers to worry about detailed measurements. I would want to reinforce times, you know, that's a measurable measurement, but I wouldn't want to burden our police officers with the requirement for measurement, because that just puts another burden on the whole system if we can avoid it. I don't know how to do that yet, but my inclination is to limit the quantitative nature as much as possible and keep things simple. I mean, you have the experience with law enforcement, how to deal with these type of situations. So I you know, when it occurs, I don't know how, you know, how does a police officer actually enforce a situation when it's loud?
Well, I mean, I can see it going both ways, to be perfectly honest with you. If we establish a decibel level and a distance level, and some, you know, we show up with a device, and okay, it's you're 1 decibel over, that's a violation. It's very simple, very technical, but very simple. I can also say, okay, well, you rolled up, and geez, it's Sunday, you're not supposed to be doing whatever, or you know, whatever it is. So I can see, perfectly honest, I can see it going both ways. It'll work. It definitely works both ways, because both of those kind of laws are on the books and they work in communities every day.
Yeah, my
I just kind
inclination
of
is,
want to get a feeling for where we're going.
yeah,
If
my
we're gonna go
inclination is
more-
not to have a police officer worry about a noise measurement,
Okay, okay.
just to keep it simple. And, you know, they're there to protect us. And if you have a rowdy neighbor or somebody else, yeah, I'm not trying to solve 100% of the situations. Just make sure that our peaceful town stays peaceful. And,
Okay. That's good. Lisa, do you have that? You got all that, you think?
Yeah, I took notes.
Okay, all right.
They may not be as detailed, but I definitely got John's.
I just want to make, yeah. And once again, if we have the notes, if we have it wrong, we can always correct it at the next meeting. Lee.
Yeah, and technically minutes don't have to be all that detailed.
Well.
So that's helpful, I think.
You're going to be described next week then? Is that what you're saying?
I was described last week, a week before, but anyway, it's a really good question. And thinking about it, my first thought is that should be something that we should put up to at the public hearing as part of the agenda. And to help them with it, we should give some examples of how it might be enforced going either way, so that people, when they give their testimony, they can say, well, you know, I sure as heck don't want it to be, you know, I know it when I see it kind of thing, because they don't like me. On the other hand, I think that, you know, I look at my Apple Watch and watch it, even, you know, if I were to look at it right now, every time I open my mouth, it spikes up high. And depending whether you had, you know, like a particular leafy tree or a tree without leaves on it between you and the, you know, and the property line, you know, you could get a different number. So, you know, having a strict number, if the number is too low to be reasonable, would not be helpful. So my tendency is to think that having a more subjective standard may be the way to go if our law enforcement people feel that that's something that they could reasonably enforce. But
Okay. I mean,
you know,
we're not locking you in. If we do an open meeting and there's 100 people that say, you know, whatever, and, you know, we can change our minds. It's not engraved. I'm just trying to get a feel for the committee on where we're going, because we'll have to do a lot of research. You know, we're gonna have to do a lot of research, and maybe we can tailor where we're going one way or the other.
so
Just say
while
this-
I'm a fundamentally quantitative person, I may be tending toward the qualitative here.
Okay, okay, thank you. Tim?
Yeah, I'm pretty cut and dry on this one. I really don't think a subjective measurement is something that's, number one, really enforceable. Number two, I don't really understand how that would hold up in court. If there would be an instance where you'd want to give a fine or something like that, and then it get challenged, and then it would have to go to that level. A noise meter is something easily calibrated. They're not super expensive, and it's something that's cut and dry. There's no two ways to look at it. It has a number, it has a scale that's backed by science and math and data that supports what that is, and it's easy to actually have a measurable point. So I really don't know how a subjective scale in this situation would be something. I think it'd be a lot harder to enforce, and it'd be a lot more room for error in actually trying to support something.
Okay, okay. Peter?
Yes, I believe that a sound level meter should be used. My view is that it actually simplifies the job of the officer if he's called on something, because he does not have to make a decision on his own. He runs the meter gives him a reading, and there's either a violation or there isn't. So I hear some people saying, well, if the level is too low, that's a separate subject, and we're going off into the weeds there. We haven't decided that yet. We're just talking
Right.
about enforcement at this point. So.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, to get a direction. If we do go that route, like you say, we have to pick the level. Like, what's the level gonna be? Where
Right.
we're gonna
Otherwise-
take it, yeah, and that's gonna be, you know, some work. We're gonna have to figure that out.
If
But
you make it all at the officer's discretion, it actually puts a bigger burden on him
Okay.
or her.
Lisa?
Yeah, I'm in support of the meters and having a quantitative measurement so that it's a yes or a no, and there's no back and forth, and it's, you know, the measurement is exactly, you know, the decision that needs to be made. And if there's a violation, they can go forward with some type of enforcement. And I think one of my concerns was that we had heard when we were looking into all of this for the citizens petition, was that the Attorney General may not pass a bylaw if there isn't some form of measurement in it. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going that way too.
Okay. Cynthia?
I've looked at all of the adjacent towns, so Ashland, Westboro, Hopkinton. I looked at the city of Marlboro, and it appears that they go more towards the qualitative side, that the emphasis is on hours of operation and how things are enforced. I think that it makes a lot, and I hear the point of the number is the number, but I believe that our police force on a daily basis in so many ways kind of mediates, and people react to that and react positively. So I'm definitely more of the subjective or qualitative side.
Okay. So we're pretty split. I don't know what the exact.
Hey,
count
Peter,
is.
can I add something in this?
Sure.
And Lee and Cindy, I'm an engineer. I'm extremely quantitative in a lot of my approaches. I want to be extremely quantitative on times, days, events. What I'm trying to be more qualitative is on the measurements of the noise or the type of noise. So if we decide that between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. or 9 a.m., whatever, there's no construction equipment, period. That for me, that's a subjective, but the quantitative of the time is concrete. I don't need a police officer measuring. If the equipment's running out during those hours, it's a violation. So I'm very quantitative. I'm just trying to avoid the quantitative, the noise. And I know Tim, and I used to work for Bose and so forth. I understand those measurements and I have them at home. I'm just trying to be practical and in simplicity of a potential solution. Because as soon as we add a lot more complexity, we're going to have a lot more questions from everybody. And Lisa and Peter, who've started this, we need to make sure that the issues you brought up are completely addressed. And I don't know how to do that with a qualitative approach. But I just want to give you that means that maybe I'm speaking for Lee and Cindy, but we're quantitative, but just on time, not the noise measurements.
Can I make a statement here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're already deciding that the law will be limited only by hours. So that's an assumption that's being made here. You're saying if the sound occurs during restricted hours, it's in violation, right? And there's no limit to, if it's during permissible hours, there's no limit to the volume. That's the assumption being made.
That's a good question, Peter. My assumption is that the equipment running during those hours meet the safety standards and regulatory standards of that equipment and so forth.
Well, okay, again, that's a second assumption.
I know
that may not be true. That may not be true. I was an engineer for 30 years, so I have an engineering background as well.
Okay.
So we take different positions on this, even though we have similar backgrounds, I guess.
I agree with what John said. Is the times are absolute. I mean, there's nothing subjective about that. It's real easy to quantify that.
Yeah, that's easy.
But I don't know, Southborough is not the kind of town where, the police officer marches up to you and holds out something. I mean, even when they stop people for speeding in this town, it's like, well, where are you going? And da 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 da, and it seems you were going. I mean, they have a very work with people approach, I guess. Just
Certainly the, any kind of metering would take any discretion right out of the equation.
Yeah.
Which, if that's what you want to do,
Yeah,
that's fine too, but.
Sorry, Peter, let me add one note. As an engineer, I have all that equipment. I love using it. So I can be persuaded for a measurement equipment if we can figure out how to make it reasonably enforceable and simply marketed and sold to our citizens. I'm just saying
I have ideas on that. We can discuss that at a different time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not taking a vote now. We're just trying to get an idea for what direction people are feeling. How far would we like to take this piece of conversation at the moment? And what do we consider, a point we can move forward in a positive way, knowing where we stand?
Yeah, do we want to do the hand thing? I can't see why am I saying anyways. I was thinking that maybe with the meetings that we have with the public, maybe their thoughts would show, and we could base our efforts on that, because clearly it's we're at kind of a crossroads. We've got to figure out which way we're going to go here, because if you do the metering, then we have to figure out, there's a lot more work with that, the distancing and where you take the readings from, and what the readings are gonna be, and are we gonna have different readings during the day and different readings at night? And, there's a lot of work to be done there.
We do have two hands raised.
Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
So, as I said, I was tending toward the subjective, but that doesn't mean that there's not a role for objective as well. Particularly listening to, the comments from, the other five of you, or four of you, that, there's a difference between borderline loud, like maybe, 70 decibels, and like, this is, like ridiculous loud, like 90 plus decibels. And, so that there could be a role for having, having some sort of absolute threshold where that was, if it was exceeded, would be, sort of prima facie evidence. But, because some numbers can sort of like vary in between, it might be useful to have something in between. Anyway, I think the bottom line is that, as I said, I think we should create some scenarios that we would, consider and post them in the potentially in the public call for the, for the hearing, so that people could see, the scenario only has to be a sentence long or so. But if we had half a dozen scenarios to see how something, how such a violation might be enforced. I mean, it could be anything from, loud music to barking dogs, and figure out how people would feel about how we would evaluate those. And that could end up giving our marching orders as to what's likely to pass, because I would think that the people who are likely to come to a public hearing are also probably more likely to attend town meeting to vote on it too.
Yes. Lisa?
So just before the meeting, I sent out a spreadsheet so
Thank
that
you.
we could do some comparisons. And I'm wondering if we need to get to that point so that we truly have an understanding of what some of these bylaws look like. I know at the end of last meeting, Pete, you said, take a look at Westboro. Tim, you said, take a look at Bellingham. I went in and started to look at some of them. It sounds like Cindy's done the same. Maybe we should fill out that spreadsheet, take a few, each of us take a few, fill it out. It's based on the criteria that we talked about that we used to create that list last week. And it looks at, are they using hours? How are they enforcing? Are they using decibels? Do they have different zones? Are there different, what are the different criteria? How are they measuring? Is it, is it the lot line? Is it so many feet away? So that we can truly get an understanding of how some of these bylaws work, and we can do a comparison and get a sense of, what could potentially work for us. Now, I've looked at a couple today. I see some that have decibel levels that are kind of all over the place, which is kind of like what we did with Bill Ricca with the one for the citizens petition. But if we had something that said, based on how noise affects health and hearing health, we could maybe figure out something that's kind of across the board, but still using times and hours, because you have to also realize that the police are not going to come to a site unless someone feels that noise is intrusive.
I met with Chief Policy. He handed me a whole big pile of bylaws and whatnot. And we did talk just briefly, but, I think if, depending on what kind of noise that's being reported, generally when the police car pulls up, the noise is gonna stop. And then you take your meter out and you got nothing to read, for the most part,
Good point.
Not too many people speed by the police car when they got the radar out the window. You gotta kind of hide or go the other, like they just, it's, so I don't know if we put all that weight into, the readings and all that, in reality, it might practically not work. It might not work. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. I can't tell you how many house parties I've gone to that when you pull up and, all of a sudden it's quiet and the shades go down and the music's off. So,
You shouldn't have
you get your
turned on the
meter
blue lights.
We get the point, yeah.
so,
I like
I don't know.
Lisa's, I like Lisa's idea of a spreadsheet because
Yeah.
as I was looking at all these different towns,
Oop, sorry.
I was thinking the same thing that, why don't we all have, I was thinking of putting together a spreadsheet. So I think that, and it'll also help us like visually see, okay, how many towns look at this? How many towns look at that? I
Right.
think that's a great idea.
Well, what I meant when I said that originally, I meant the surrounding towns as far as hours of, like if Hopkinton has hours of operation, we don't want to make it so people come to Westboro, like the landscapers say, if it's a landscape thing or construction or whatever, they come to Southborough because our hours are different than theirs and ours is an hour later than theirs, so they can work more. Like we want to make sure they're kind of uniform with the surrounding towns. I wasn't necessarily referring to anybody outside of, this brief area, contiguous area. But I mean, certainly if we get ideas we can get them from anywhere. Doesn't have to be even Massachusetts if we get,
So my question, the reason I have my hands up is whether, and maybe either you or Sam knows the answer to it. Are we allowed to put up a Google Doc, which, as you know, is something that if you share it with all the members of the committee, every member of the committee can edit it as like a wiki? Or because of the open meeting thing, would that possibly be considered a deliberation?
I think what we would have to do is, we could do an assignment if everybody says they wanted, they tell what town they're going to do the research, and then we could compile it in a meeting, we could add it together in a meeting.
What
If
I
everybody picks-
understood is we can share data. We just can't
Yeah.
share,
Opinions,
we can't share opinions.
right.
So then we could put in data into a spreadsheet like this.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wish that Sam would.
Because then nobody has to like copy and paste it, into the spreadsheet. We could all put our own data into the spreadsheet. We would just have to assign which towns you were going to research.
right.
So Sam's in the audience here. I'm sure he's listening in. Sam's
Right.
died. So Sam, this is another one of those open meeting law comments. If you wouldn't mind giving us an opinion, if you're available, we would appreciate some direction.
Because that would make it easier for whoever was the custodian of the spreadsheet, if they just had to be the custodian of sharing it on a Google Doc. And conceivably even, the town could set up an account for us to share the Google Doc through. Oh, here comes Sam.
Oh, yeah, it is, Sam.
Hey, guys, can you repeat the question? I was multitasking.
Yes, I'll ask the question.
So,
Is that we have this spreadsheet that Lisa sort of started.
Right.
That lists it says hours, days, holidays, emergency exemptions, the different criteria. The question that I have is, could we set that up as a Google Doc, assign each of us certain towns to research, and then we would just fill in the towns that we were going to do it as a Google Doc, or does that run potentially afoul of the open meeting law?
I guess first, I'm not putting myself out as the open meeting law expert, but I think there's the open meeting law focuses on deliberation. So it would clearly be a problem if someone filled the spreadsheet out and said, I think this is a great point from the XYZ town that we ought to adopt, for example, versus factually, we're collecting the data about these towns on these dimensions, et cetera, et cetera. I would suggest two things. One, a quick call to Jim Haggerty at some point would be a good reference point. Jim tends to be very conservative about this stuff. So if he says that's okay to collect data, then I think you're in pretty good shape. If he says that's not okay, then I think there's another way to do it, is that each individual could take their town or towns and do their spreadsheet and then send that to a central point to collect it and put it together and then distribute to the entire group. So you don't have people, connecting with each other in ways that could produce a quorum somehow. Again, my personal view is that as long as you're just collecting data, nobody's deliberating, expressing opinions, et cetera. It doesn't sound to me like an open meeting law problem, but to be cleanest, it would be a single collection point and then distribute back to the entire group. And I don't think that inhibits what you're trying to do here at all. I think you could do that very effectively, but Haggerty would be a good source for opining on that.
Thank you, Sam. Peter, I see you have your hand up. You're not coming through.
We lost his
Uh,
cell phone
Where's
connection.
the other window?
I think your cell phone shut off, or you only have video. We don't have your audio.
Maybe take Tim's comment while we're waiting for Peter to get back on.
Yeah, I think he's dialing his phone now. It should only take a second, but. So let me just go over the next comment in the agenda. And this may be too big to do tonight. I was thinking of going through the list just briefly, not in depth, and kind of go through things that we think we need to, are out of consideration, maybe some must-haves or some I'm not sure about, to kind of maybe whittle down the list. Peter, is your audio back yet? You got to unmute your whatever that is you dialed in on. It looks like your microphone.
Yeah, I think he's on the phone, but it's muted.
It looks like his iPhone, but it's muted. There you go, I think.
Yep.
Okay, we can hear you now. Go ahead, Peter.
I'm trying to remember what my comment, I can't remember what my comment was. After all that.
So
Okay.
we were talking about individual sheets.
Oh, right.
And sending them to a central point and back to the group.
Right. But that's what I did 2 weeks ago. I had a bunch of data. I sent it out to the entire group. And my understanding was I got in trouble for that last week. So I don't see what the difference is.
Were there opinions on
Yeah,
it?
there were opinions.
Yeah.
Where was there an opinion?
Well, on some of your stuff, Peter, it did have some opinions. Some of it was was the data, but some of it did have some opinions, and that's where it gets in a gray area.
Oh,
I think if it's just a graph and it depicts an accurate representation of what that bylaw is, and it's not to be not to be interpreted. If somebody reads a bylaw and they don't like it and they change it and they put it in there like that, we're gonna have problems. So,
my point to this, if I can speak, is
go ahead,
I think we're better off anticipating Jim's response that we are not to do a shared document.
Yeah.
just to kind of say, does somebody like to be the point of collection for this? To put it together before the next time we would get together or whenever we would decide we want to review it.
Yeah.
So I think we're better off if we take Lisa's template. I think if we would go through and say, do we have the right questions in here? Do we have the right information we're collecting? Should we get different information from what the bylaws state? You know, I think what we should try to answer instead is, what is the best way to get the information that we're looking for? Make sure we're collecting all of it when we're going through this exercise. And then maybe select somebody that would like to consolidate.
I think that's a great idea. I think we could just do the homework and then even at a meeting, compile it or somehow figure out how we can all compile it safely. So we're not going to get in any trouble. And we should review the actually Lisa's, like you say, Lisa's the columns and what we're looking for. Make sure I'm sure it's fine, but we should at least review it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Ooh,
So if we can jump into it, I have it up here.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we can. Yeah, we could do that.
So there's
That way we can do some homework.
Yep, there's hours allowed. There's days or holidays. Emergency exemptions, which I think I'm just gonna say exemptions, if that's
Can you-
okay.
Can you zoom that document a bit?
Yeah, sorry.
It's tiny.
So,
Great.
so just realize
Yeah,
too
much
that
better.
as you read through those bylaws, they categorize stuff very differently, and that's probably why I said emergencies, like emergency exemptions. Then there's just general exemptions. So you may need to pull a little more information in, and like some of the stuff that I pulled in, I took right out of the bylaw, so it was exactly how it's stated. Otherwise, I think I did yes or no's and stuff. So
Okay, so with your research, should we have two categories, one that says exemptions and one that says emergency exemptions, or should it be one category that's just exemptions, and then in the information that would be collected, you could say emergency or non-emergency if there's a reason to separate it?
yeah, it doesn't.
I would think it would be exemptions, and then if it's emergency, you just say emergencies.
Okay, I'm okay with.
Yeah, let's go ahead and add another column. I mean, I think that's fine. I would put it right next to it. So, because it's kind of in the same category sometimes.
Or you could assume any town is going to exempt emergency situations.
I know that some towns have exemptions or permits, and I don't know if that's something that exemptions / permits could be, but you could get a permit for, say, a parade through town.
Mhm.
So that could
be
be,
under variances in column J
Yeah.
now.
okay, so it's already in here. We're just add exemptions, and then if there's a reason to separate it, we know these two columns could kind of be combined later if interpreted.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sound measurement from distance measured. So I'm assuming that yes means that there is a meter. Is
Yeah.
that
Yes, they're using some type of decibel. They have decibels. There's decibels in the bylaw. Sometimes they don't talk about using measurement, but they have everything in the definitions.
okay? So I would think it makes more sense, or a certain level of sense, if we would change the title of this. I don't know what the words are, to like objective or subjective measurements, and then what it is, and then down below we can say objective, subjective, and then list out more, if that's a good way of doing this.
So would subjective be like days and times?
No, subjective would be like opinion of the officer. Like,
Discretion.
yeah,
of the-
discretion.
Okay.
but having to do with sound, not days and times, right?
Yeah, like
Okay.
literally, like the way that you would say that you are in or not within compliance. I think hours allowed is already as a separate category,
Mhm.
and that stands on its own. I mean, I see some of it's here because this town clearly has differences for how they handle different times.
Right.
So, okay.
I mean,
So- Jim, what do you suggest for that header there then?
I would say objective or subjective measurement and distance where that assessment is taken.
Okay. I mean, just as long as we know what needs to go in there, I
Yeah.
mean, it's fine.
So Lisa, when we were working on this before, we recognized there are 47 cities and towns in Massachusetts that have
Mhm.
noise bylaws. Is it our intent to cover 47 in this spreadsheet, or what are we doing?
I put down a bunch of towns, but I was just like, oh, let me go in and look at this one. And then I wasn't sure if anyone else had looked at stuff. And I don't think we need to look at all. I mean, my opinion is
Okay.
we don't
So
have
how
to
do we
do all
decide which ones?
47. But if we all took 5, we'd end up with 35. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I would say we need to make sure we cover the towns around us
Mhm.
as a must-have. And then we should maybe identify some towns that we think are similar to Southborough enough in makeup that we would get at least a sampling of what other towns are like. I mean, Acton and Southborough, I think, are somewhat similar. We're not necessarily adjacent, but I think that there's a downtown, there's multifamily dwellings, there's non-multifamily dwellings, there's residential or more rural and more suburban style settings. I would say, like, as long as we kind of have some comparisons that make up the geography of what our town is like, that's really something to consider.
They call that your when you do negotiations, your universe, like things that are comparable to us in population, size, that kind of thing. But, things are going to be very different, than maybe in Boston.
Yeah.
Just because we're,
Yeah,
I think we ought to also include in the spreadsheet the 2 Southborough attempts that we've done before, so that we'll have those as points of comparison on the spreadsheet.
But those were never existed as bylaws.
No, but they showed things that we proposed that for one reason or another were not acceptable. And it might be useful to be able to categorize it out on the same spreadsheet. I wouldn't put it in, I would put it like maybe at the bottom of the spreadsheet or at the top of the spreadsheet to show what ideas we have looked at in the past.
yeah,
But
that's a good idea.
if the purpose of the spreadsheet is to show data, those are not data. They were proposals. They're not real data.
They don't belong there.
I think we could more address that as we go through, like the line items and how are we going to do this? I think those are good resources for the actual discussions of those things.
Okay.
So I'll
Um,
volunteer to do the towns that I researched before. I think I have like 6 of them or something.
Do you know offhand what they were, Peter?
It's in the mail that I sent a couple weeks ago. One of them was Dalton, Nantucket, Westford, Hopkinton, Billerica, obviously. So there's 5.
Okay.
There are probably a couple others.
Westford, Billerica. What was the, oh, Hopkinton.
Hopkinton, yeah.
Okay.
Ashland, I think I spoke with them.
I put Ashland on there today.
Okay.
I missed something. I have Dalton, Nantucket, Billerica, Hopkinton, Ashland, and then there's another one I think you said.
Westford.
Westford, yeah.
Okay, I in the ones I looked at, Ashland, so we've already got that. Westboro.
Did you do Marlboro?
Marlboro.
I did, yeah.
I couldn't get into Westboro.
Oh, I had to call. Even they couldn't get into it. They had to call me back.
So is it a complete noise bylaw or is it a noise ordinance? And what's the difference?
It is a, oh, where'd it go? What the heck did I print? Oh, double-sided?
It's pretty
No.
brief. It's only a couple
It is-
sentences.
It's basically, oh, here it is. It's basically construction and it's days and times. That's it.
All right.
Yeah, I remember reading that one.
Yeah, I couldn't get into it from that website, but
Like I said, they had to call me back because they couldn't either.
okay. Westboro.
Article 66 of their bylaws.
It's,
Section
it's
1.
it's not accessible from the state website. The state
Okay.
website has a 2019 version, which makes
Right.
no mention of that.
Right.
It's actually, I forget how to get there.
It-
You have to go to Westboro.
It's not it's not a noise bylaw. It's a construction activity bylaw.
Okay.
That's why.
Right.
All right.
John, you had your hand up.
Yeah, because does anybody know the difference between ordinance and a bylaw? Because going through the Marlboro and some of the local towns, it's like some had pretty detailed descriptions and requirements.
an
Other
or-
ones, yeah.
An ordinance is in a city, a bylaw is in a town. They're the same.
Okay.
Do we need to specify which one's an ordinance and which one's a bylaw, or does it not really matter for this?
We can only do bylaws. We're not a city. So
Right. We're a town.
Okay. So
you can try and do an ordinance, but
we didn't get through the rest of this yet. So let's go through the top of this and then we'll start talking about the towns, I think, and then we can get this document piece off of our plate for this.
Sure.
Enforcement is, you have here police or fines. So are you talking about the department or are you talking about both the department and penalty?
So now I'm just saying, I think it's both. Did I say there were fines?
You
Yeah.
have fines, but you have some down here that talk about amounts and then you have just departments up top. So
Right.
I think that there should be maybe enforcement agency,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Okay.
there should be an enforcement amount or penalty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yep.
There are legal limits to penalties.
250 a day, I believe, was the number that I remember seeing. Could be wrong on that.
I think
Well-
it's 300.
Yeah, you can have graduated levels depending on how many offenses there have been, but they are prescribed.
With a cap, right? So I believe I saw that cap was, Peter just said 300. I thought I saw 250, but I know there's a number somewhere around there that
Right.
that town
You-
council could always correct later if we had the wrong thing.
Right, there's state limits. You know,
Yeah.
we can't enact one and say, oh, it's $1,000 a day. No, that won't
It's
fly.
300.
Okay. Noise categories. This one's interesting. So you have construction, receiving land, construction sites, motor vehicles.
Yeah, they're all different. How
Well,
they,
Does that seem like
We
the
had-
right thing?
But
We had
as we
some
go through
discussion
them,
last-
the information will still be, it will be, we'll be able to look at the information and go, oh yeah, that applies to us, or oh, it doesn't.
right.
So there was some discussion last week about motor vehicle noise, and that's already covered by state laws.
Yeah,
So
Peter,
for-
that's what I was thinking about when I was going to review the list. Because there are some items there that, just like you mentioned, that we could, perhaps take off the list because of what you just said. So I was just going to kind of wait till we got to the list, if we can even get to that today. But, and deal with some of those things
So
at that
noise
point.
categories, is this the right thing to keep? Is that the right description or title for this column? Are we okay with that? I don't hear objections to it. So I mean, as long as we understand what it is, I guess that's the big thing that
Yeah.
of keeping this here. Variances, so call that different than exemptions, but is that the same as exemptions? Should these two be exemptions and variances, or?
That seems like that would be the same.
No, because I think it's more of a permitting process.
Right.
So that if you
Yeah.
needed to have a day or two to do some work, you need to get a variance on it. But exemptions would be something that are always in place. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So that's why I was thinking emergency, what did I say? There's too many things. Exemptions. Yeah, emergency and exemptions.
Like if
So
you were
like-
having a wedding on your property, that would be a variance.
Right.
Yes, yes.
But
Okay.
if it was a snowstorm and you had to run your,
No blower.
yeah, your
Generator.
snow blower at 5 a.m, that's an emergency situation and it's exempted at that time. Or if you turn on your generator
Mhm.
and as a result of loss of power, it's an exemption. So you can't be calling on a neighbor whose power's out and their generator's really loud.
Okay, so then I'm good with the way that this is. Zones, residential, commercial, industrial, corresponding decibels. So I think that's clear if the town's split up by zones or if it's one area.
Mhm.
Do
And
we
then-
have, what the decibels are? Listed anywhere?
It's in the bylaw. I didn't pull them, but we could definitely pull them in.
Because, I mean, if we decide to go that route, I mean,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a major,
Mhm. Yep.
a major thing we're gonna have to talk about. Like, if we do have a level, what's it gonna be?
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I think we should, if you're reviewing bylaws that have those,
Yep.
we want to be sure that we're at least in line with those, I would imagine, hopefully they've done their research.
Mhm. So I would just go in and cut and paste and put it in the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tim, the distances that the readings are taken from would be, because it's my understanding that's important as well when you do a measurement, how far away
That's in this column here, actually.
is it? Okay,
Yeah, so if there is a distance, it like down here, very DVA measured at property boundary. So we would just want to go back to these
Okay.
and split it down a little bit. So that way we have some more information from it.
okay,
And then I added a link to the article. So if you're pulling it from the article or something, so we can just kind of compile where these are for future reference.
That's good.
That'll be
okay.
helpful.
I see that we have, some that we've already done. And do we have any other towns that we really need to do anymore?
Well, we have these couple that Peter already has knowledge of and we can fill in.
Yeah,
We're still missing Marlboro, Westboro, which I believe Cindy, you said you were starting to handle.
Yeah, I've got that printed out so I can fill that in.
So this was Cindy's list. What other cities were on your list of here? Because I think that we still need to get. I'm just going to start to fill it in down here. We need Natick.
Northborough. Well, surrounding towns, Northborough and Framingham, right?
correct.
Did I not do Northborough? Hold on.
If they have
We
one,
have one.
They might not have, I know Shrewsbury doesn't have one,
right? So a lot of places don't.
So
right?
we should also capture some of that too in this list. If we have these towns, we should say it doesn't have one or whatever.
Mhm.
I'll take Northborough.
I'll take Shrewsbury.
We're
Yeah, I want
Thanks,
Shrewsbury.
John.
I can take Natick and Framingham.
No,
we're
Shrewsbury doesn't
building
have.
this.
Yeah, Shrewsbury doesn't have one, so that's.
We're building this list.
I think
To
we
see
found the
what-
next scribe for the next meeting right there.
God damn it.
So we still need. Wait, Lee, did you say were you the one mentioning Natick and Framingham? I don't know if I started getting distracted here in the middle.
Yeah,
of
so I said I'll take Natick and Framingham.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll take Northborough and some other town that we identify.
I think Cindy
Oh,
already
I've
has.
got
Oh,
Northborough.
Cindy already
Oh,
has it.
sorry.
What other towns do we need? I think we need to still get. I want to take your name off this.
I
Oh,
don't
you
think
know
it
what a
makes any
good town
sense.
would be? Sure, and I'm
Sherburne?
thinking Sherburne.
Yeah, because it's quiet. I wonder if they have
It's
something.
very, very much like Southborough, a little more rural still than we are, but Sherburne would be a good town.
Okay, does it make any sense to include towns that don't have a noise bylaw or ordinance?
We should just make note of it. So if
Well,
there's,
we already know there are 47 cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts that have noise bylaws. Now, I don't know what the total number of cities and towns in Massachusetts is,
351.
but 47 is
351.
is just a fraction of that.
The ones that I
But-
listed on the side are the 47 that we know of. I do think there's been some additions since this, because I know Pepperell is a new bylaw that I saw. I don't know if that would be a good one to look at. Or at least, I don't know if it's been approved by the Attorney General, but it was on the website. But those are the ones that should have a bylaw in the list.
I thought, my understanding was the purpose of this spreadsheet was to see how other towns detailed their bylaws.
Yep.
Yeah,
How about
Yeah.
Acton?
John has his hand up.
Sorry, I just want to, I mean, we all have lives and so forth. We're going to be drowned by data. I think if we
Yep.
go back to what Peter said, let's just look at our surrounding community. You know, there's a handful. Some people already look a little bit beyond that, identify a few more towns, and that's it. We're not going to solve world hunger with this. And and if we get 80% of the problem solved by this bylaw, I'll be extremely happy. And then we can amend it years later. So I don't want to go crazy with towns. I want to look at our surrounding communities, see what they're doing, and then and a few other ones that we think are applicable to our type of town, and just look at that and then understand what our citizens and our fellow neighbors want and need, and then get to a quick solution.
That's great. I think we have plenty right there. If we can just have a few people do the further homework, and I think that would be enough.
Are we missing any towns that we think kind of resemble Southborough from the current list that we have? I know I mentioned Acton.
can
was
we,
one.
can we go back to the list of towns and just look at them for a second to see if there's,
Yeah.
so,
I do agree with your point, John. I just wanted to see if there's any more further away towns that right beside us that may or may not resemble us somewhat.
keep going down.
Tim, did
Go
you look
down
at
more.
Bellingham?
I did. I
I've
should
got
add that. I'll add that to the
Bellingham.
list.
Okay.
That's a good one.
So quick question, guys. What about a major city, just as a comparison to Peter? I mean, you're a police officer, so large cities would have certain challenges with noises, mostly around multifamily and so forth. And as you know, our town is slowly changing to include more multifamily
Right.
dwellings. And I think as due diligence, I'd want to at least take that into account.
Watertown has one. I'd be happy to do that one as a comparison. I think that's a good makeup of a more dense, but not Boston.
Yeah.
Like.
Sure.
So-
Winchester might be a good one.
Yeah.
I can do it. I'll do Winchester.
I was just gonna say that one, yeah.
Okay, so Tim, I've got you down for Bellingham and Watertown. John, I've got you down for Sherborne. There's
Sure,
Ac-
whatever you need. Yeah, Shrewsbury,
And-
Acton, Shrewsbury, that's fine.
Okay.
Anything else?
Was anyone taking Acton? Did you want
I-
to take it, John?
I'll take it. It's fine.
Okay,
It's-
perfect.
It's fine.
Okay,
So who
Yep.
wants Winchester? That's the last one.
I'll take it. I'll
Please.
take it. Yeah.
I mean, I have Westboro. I don't see it on your list, but,
It's under Cindy's section.
oh, okay.
This should be a good sampling.
Yeah, that's
I
a,
think so.
and
Okay,
that's, that's gonna be great when we have the open meeting. We can say, we've pulled the surrounding towns and we picked some that are similar to us and some that are bigger and some that are smaller. So it shows we did some research, so that's good. So,
Peter, there's an opportunity for you to offload some of yours just to be a little bit more even. Would you like to offload any of yours towns to somebody else? So that way we don't have you with that many? Or would you like to keep it in your?
I think he already did them.
Yeah, I have to go back and review. I haven't looked at them in a couple of years, so
Okay.
Well,
I can offload Westford. Lisa, you said you already did Ashland? That's already
Yeah,
here in there?
Ashland's in the spreadsheet.
Yeah, so that only, yeah,
Westford, I think, is a town that is very similar to us also. Westford would be a good one to look at.
right. Okay, so give somebody needs Westford. Yeah, and I'll keep those 4 that I.
So Lisa, is it okay? I'm just gonna put you as Ashland and then you can just touch up what you already did.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I see
So we need-
Westford in column R.
Yeah, I need to assign it to a person.
Okay.
Peter, that's you, or Pete, that's you now.
I can do Westford because it looks like Natick and Framingham is, from this list, may not have anything, so I'll go look.
Oh,
continue
you're
to look.
lucky.
But give me Westford,
Okay.
so that I know I have at least one.
Now I don't have to find a new way of adding more people to this.
Okay.
There you go.
So how are we gonna get this spreadsheet, the updated one?
I will send this out to everybody to work off as a template,
Okay,
and then everybody can just. I mean, I'm willing to do it. I'm okay with Excel. So if everybody wants to just send it back to me with your additions into it,
super.
I will just copy paste.
Okay,
And Tim, we need to get this back to you by next Tuesday before the holiday.
No,
Just get it
'cause-
over with.
no, because like we don't have our next meeting till after the holiday. So like, don't kill yourselves to try to get this thing done before the holiday because don't want to deal with it before the holiday. So let's deal with it after the holiday,
Okay.
before the next meeting.
Back before the next meeting. Okay.
Sounds good.
Just give me like, 2 days or so if we can before the next meeting to get it put together.
2 days
15
before.
minutes before the meeting.
I mean, I'll do it during the meeting, but I mean, like, that's just me.
All right, so
What-
2
what's
days
the-
before, and I'll look at the calendar and write it down so everyone will know.
Yeah,
When
so 2 days before, what we talked about this before, I think the 5th was gonna be our next meeting. Oh, no, sorry, I'm in January.
I've got the 8th written down.
Oh, yeah, the 8th. Or would it be the 1st, December?
I thought I
I'm
had
sorry.
7:30 on the 1st and
The
7:30.
first, yeah.
Okay, so let's just try to get it done by, let's just say Monday, the 29th. That's 2 days
Okay.
before.
Okay,
At the latest.
Yeah, that gives people time to kind of enjoy your holiday, and then after you're done with your turkey and stuff, and you want to do something else for a bit before football comes on.
sounds good.
All right, that sounds good. So that was actually, I think, could be covered under number 6 on the agenda where it says review of existing bylaws in Mass.
Yeah.
I think that covers that. So I'm gonna cross that one off. I do 8:46. I mean, do you want to go through the list quickly or do you want to table that for another meeting?
I make a motion to move that to a future meeting.
Okay, perfect.
Second,
That being seconded, all those, okay, I guess I gotta do roll call. Ready, Scribe? John,
Sorry, nay.
Lee,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Peter,
aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Cynthia,
Aye.
and Peter Goodney's gonna be an aye as well. So that's tabled. Let me make sure I get this.
Tim, did I get one from Tim? Sorry.
I was
Yes.
aye.
Okay. And John, were you an A?
I was an A just because I'm worried we're running out of time.
Okay. All right, thanks. Thank you.
The next one is, well, any other business, which, I did reach out to, Mark Purple regarding, we had talked about having the public attend meetings and what I was advised that if we do that, it has to be what they call a hybrid meeting, which means there has to be, the component with virtual has to be part of it, which can be quite complicated. I feel that, I talked to Tim briefly. I think we have the talent that we could actually put one of those meetings on if we wanted to. However, the in-person meeting for just the committee is out of question. So the only way we could really open up to the public coming in is through one of the 3 open meetings that we're supposed to have. So just to kind of give you an update on that. I guess it's part of COVID. You have to meet virtually. So.
So Peter,
we
did
want-
you
Go
did you
ahead.
just say so did you just say that the public hearing is, we can have it in person?
We can have it in person only if there's a virtual component to it.
Okay,
So in other words, if half of us wanted to stay at home, or
Yeah.
if somebody else in the town that wanted to attend the meeting wanted to stay at home, they could still go to the meeting through the computer,
right.
which is complicated because if somebody's in the room and they're talking, they need to be seen, they need to be heard out in
Oh,
virtual reality, and you can't have, well, you can only have one microphone because everybody will feed back. So it is quite complicated. Tim feels as though, I mean, they've done it at other meetings in town. It is a learning curve, I guess, and we'll have to meet with the IT person, but Tim has a microphone. I guess he can plug in a microphone, shut everybody else on mute, and we believe it will work. If it's something that the committee wants to pursue. I know some people are challenged with computers and they may feel more comfortable going to like the police station training room. I think would be a good spot because they have updated equipment in there. But also, maybe with COVID, they don't want to go to a pub. I see it both ways, but I think it's probably not a bad idea to at least have that as a avenue, but it's entirely up to you folks. So I just want to let you know what the parameters were. I reached out to Mark. I said, well, can we have a meeting in person? And he said, this is the only way you can do it. So we may just decide to do just strictly Zoom. That's fine too. So that's just something to think about. We don't have to make a decision tonight on that. If you want, we can. I guess
I would suggest that we at least pick a date for the first public hearing, if we feel comfortable enough with where we're at. And so we can get it posted because the holidays are going to start to really.
I think that's a great, that was actually next one on my agenda is the scheduling of future meetings. What do you think about, all right, so we got one December 1st and then we got one, what, the 8th?
yeah.
Do you want to make the 8th a public meeting?
Well, we've had public comment in all of our meetings.
All right,
We might actually have a public comment tonight. I'm not sure. We have more guests than we have had in the past. I would say myself, I think the 15th would be the earliest that we should try to have a public hearing.
Yep.
Just because I think we do need the next 2 weeks to kind of compile, go over the list that we just came back with, try to align on some level of comment for what we're going to seek public hearing for, and then try to maybe at least, come back for at least next meeting. We would have maybe some more opinion after research of what other towns are doing for objective or subjective measurement. That would probably be the biggest topic we would take to the first public hearing we would do, and see if there's support one way or the other, or opinions one way or the other to continue that path. And then we would probably want to bring another couple ideas of maybe times of days, times of weeks, some of that sort of information. And we don't have alignment on any of that yet. So we need to make sure we get aligned on what we want to take to a public meeting or public hearing between the 1st and the 8th. And we need to post on what we're doing to get people to come.
I understand what you're talking about, Tim, but I didn't want to get too far down the road without taking public input. So we gotta have three of these, we gotta have three of these public input meetings, and I agree. Further down the road, we have to, maybe have some things in line for these meetings, but I think the first one where we're still kind of gathering the facts and the feel, and, I don't want to go too far down the road with any thoughts or conclusions before we don't have, public input. That would be my only concern. So I think since we're having three, the earlier the better on the first one. And then maybe, at least that's my thought. But once again, whatever you guys think.
I thought December 15th was what we had decided
Okay.
for the first public hearing.
So Peter,
I've got it as open, but I believe we discussed the 15th.
Okay. That sounds great to me. Is that, I'll make a motion that we make December 15th. We have to pick a time, obviously, right?
John has his hand up, or had his hand up a second ago.
so I sort of want to reinforce Peter's comment is this first meeting should be about collecting as much information from our neighbors and citizens to help us craft what is needed for the bylaw. It's not about presenting a lot of detail. It's really a gathering. And whether it's on the 8th or the 15th, it doesn't matter as long as it's before the holidays. So if you think of it that way as just gathering information, there's not a lot of structure that we have to have there. We just have to present the potential issues and just really get comments, and that's going to be huge. Now, Sam last time said it takes time to get people to show up to these things. So I'm fine either way. I want to reinforce what Peter said. This should be a data collecting feedback from our neighbors.
So if we do that comment, which I support that notion, I think we should come up with several questions we would like feedback for.
Yes.
So we should at least have some kind of questions we're taking to the town and say, we need feedback on this, this, and this. Show up to our meeting.
Yeah, I'll put that on an agenda for the next meeting as to how we're going to run the open meeting, what we're going to talk about, or the public meeting, however you want to refer to it.
I thought that the list of things we are going to consider was going to be the agenda for that.
Yep. I mean,
And ask them if
it's-
there are other things they want us to consider, or if there's any input on those items.
Well, somebody mentioned tonight about scenarios, so that was another thing that, maybe we should have some scenarios prepared. It hasn't been decided what we're going to do at the meeting, so I'll put that as an agenda item in one of the next two meetings that we have, like, how do you want to run it? And we'll just think about it between now and then we'll figure it out. But I think it's a little premature right now to, I have that when somebody mentioned the scenario idea, I wrote that down.
Sorry, Peter, I don't know if this is appropriate for this time, but one of the questions I have for the committee and Sam is would a survey to our citizens be appropriate and actually tick off one of those requirements for us? Because a lot of people aren't going to show up to these meetings, but if you go to the transfer station and there's a URL, or go to the town website or other things, and there's a survey you fill out, we can get a lot of information, all based on the questions that we prepare for the first meeting. And that's how you're going to get buy-in, right? If you get people more involved in answering questions, then at the town meeting, they're more likely to support whatever we propose.
I like that idea.
Yep.
These are
Would that be a survey that keeps track of it, like just reports the numbers at the end? Like there's not going to be any a lot of work to do to calculate all the, one of those what do they call it? Survey Monkey?
Survey Monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd have to figure out what's appropriate for the town, but it'll be very simple, and we just post the link to it in multiple different locations based on what's legal, and then we're going to get a certain type of citizen coming back. I'm more concerned about certain citizens that aren't tech savvy, making sure we get their feedback.
Right. I mean, I
If you
don't
do
think there's any way around the open public meeting. We have to do those. However, this could be an interesting, way, but I'll have to reach out to Mark Purple to see if that's,
Sam Stiver just mentioned in the chat that there is, the Municipal Technology Committee has a survey mechanism that they have used. They could be of help for this.
do you folks think I should ask Mark Purple about it and see if it's a good idea, or?
I think it's a good idea. I think we should figure out how do we do it and then have that reinforce whatever we take to the first hearing we're doing. And I believe one of the things we should ask is it only yes, no questions with multiple choice options, or is it open-ended, and do we allow an open-ended response as well?
Yeah,
How do you
I think-
populate the survey?
I-
Who's
I
going to
think-
decide what's in the survey?
We are.
We would. We would
And
have.
what meeting will we be doing that in? We're running out of, as has been pointed out many times, we're running out of time. So this is yet another work item for us to come to agreement on.
I would say that would be whatever questions we want feedback on that we would decide at the next meeting, which would be an agenda item we're allowed to discuss at that point. It would be, we could have things like objective or subjective measurements. It could be what time of day would you find appropriate? Do you think a weekend would be a different, a Sunday would be different than a Saturday, which would be different than and would a holiday be different than another day? Like, it could be questions like that we would have supported from what other towns have done, and then just we'd have to sit down and write them next meeting and say these are what we are agreeing for that survey.
And how does the survey get publicized so we get adequate feedback? The tech people, yeah, they'll do it, but what about the other people?
The transfer station, I don't know the answer to this, but I will take a stab at it. The transfer station is where most people find out about things in town. So if there was a QR code of a link there saying, take this survey, I'm sure we can get it on My Southborough, which is a certain level of town too. It can go on the town website. It can go in all the places town business is done. I'm sure we can get it posted, and that could be something Mark Purple could help us with. But I'm sure there's avenues we could get this distributed as well as having the meeting. It's just expanding the reach of what the meeting's going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said about the transfer station in particular, because they have that flashing billboard when you come up. They could say, take the noise bylaw, survey, please.
Yeah.
Senior
that's fine.
center too.
Yeah.
I think looking at the list of things that we chose to look at, I mean, we could turn a lot of these things just at the questions.
Yeah.
A lot of them have questions on them anyways.
I think if we could just make a list of questions and agree on that next
Yeah.
meeting, and
Yeah.
then we could walk away with, what is that, 2 weeks? Before this public comment or public meeting we would have, and we'd also be able to hopefully bring data back by that point. And then maybe we close the survey for us to look at shortly after the 15th.
I think you should leave it open for a while. Maybe even get the feedback from the open hearing, the initial one, and have it ready to go for the second and third.
Yeah.
And leave it open for a while so people could go in
Yeah,
and answer those questions. Because
I
we'll
agree
have
with
other times.
I agree with the date. I think that we should leave it open for a period of time, but we're going to want to update things at some point after that. And if we give people a bit of a deadline, they're more likely to probably do it by the time we need it done by. So I would say a reasonable time after the meeting, because we're going to probably want another survey or something after we start getting a bunch of things put together for another future meeting. And it would give us the opportunity just to have a deadline for that.
Yep.
It'd be interesting to talk to the Municipal Technology Committee to get a sense of how many people take surveys.
Hmm.
At least it's all about the marketing of the survey. So if you really want its
Sure.
maximum amount, you have to, one of us goes to the transfer station, hands out papers, gets people to understand it. It's on the public, it's on our town website, it's on my Southborough, it's everywhere. And
Mhm.
I really believe that involved citizens improve society. So, so
I agree. I mean, I
And-
think
And they
surveys
said
are a good
about
way.
300 to
It's,
500 people is typical. That's a lot.
That's a really lot. Mm.
okay,
Uh,
now
So
we have a
what-
goal
That's
to
like
beat.
5% of the town.
did you say 300 to 500?
yeah,
Yeah.
more people than come to town meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
By far.
So
Lee, you mentioned about scenarios. Did you, if you had some in mind, if you could just maybe work on those for a little homework?
All right, I'll put it on
So
my
if we just-
to-do list.
if we decide to go that route. And one of the, I'm gonna go a little bit off, but it's part of a any other business. I know we had talked about going through this list and we did table it, but there is some homework that should be done on the list to find out if there's some things that we, can be done at other avenues. And one of them I thought was somebody's gonna touch base with the building department or the building inspector. And I put in 2 calls. I couldn't get a call back. So I don't know if anybody has free time during the day to maybe meet with them and, or him or her, and see, what are the restrictions? Is that part of a building permit, or is it possible, or?
There can be, as part of the permit.
Okay. Are they open to that? Like, basically, somebody needs to talk to them and find out what is the story, in general.
So, I mean, I don't mind going down to and asking those questions of the building department to figure out, are there any default noise constraints when giving permits out?
Right,
I don't
just to
think
say,
there are.
look, tell them what we're doing. We're trying to get a noise bylaw, and we don't want to duplicate our efforts and come up with all kinds of days and weeks and time, if they already have it spelled out, like Westboro has it spelled out already. So, that was my thought, but.
I think it's the abutters that need to ask for a variance. That it has nothing to do with the builders.
No,
So,
you can pull a building permit and it could be written out in the building permit that work will not start at such and such, equipment
No.
will not be started, it could be part of the building permit.
It could be, but
It
if
could be,
you're
but it's
a
not.
contractor who's getting the permit, you're not gonna wanna place restrictions on yourself. Like Lisa said, it's up
No,
to the
but-
abutters to know that someone's applying for a permit and for them to ask for restrictions. But if they don't
No,
know,
the building department issues the permit. They put whatever they want in it.
well, today, I don't believe they have
So-
any restrictions.
So at the end of the day, we need to find out if there are restrictions, what
Right.
they are, and make sure that we're not doing duplicate efforts. So that's what we're asking John to go down to the building department and find out those answers.
Just do some research. I mean, just because, to kind of look at the big, when we talked last week, what were the big, it seems like a lot of the the noise problems are, like landscaping equipment and building. Like, those are the kind of the 2 main problems that people are going to be calling on. So if we could kind of focus on those a little bit, that's ultimately what we're going to be doing. So to reach out to the building department, I don't think is a waste of time. I think it would be advantageous to do that. So I tried to this week. I called a number of times. I work during the day, so I can't go down there. So that's why I was just trying to reach out to see if maybe somebody could, at least get some information. That's all. And it looks like we have a candidate for that. So wonderful.
thanks, John.
No problem.
That's pretty much it. I'm going to open it up to public comment, if there is any. I guess we have a few more fans than we have in the past.
So if anybody would like to just raise their hand, and I'll move you over.
if you want to comment, I guess there's a raise your hand function. Just hit that and we will, I guess Tim is the only one that can see it, but
I don't see anything, so I think we can move forward.
okay, that sounds good. I would like to move to adjourn.
Second.
Excuse me, before we go to that, are we selecting the 15th as the public hearing date? Is that, did we
Thought we agreed.
finalize that?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, we never voted on it.
Okay.
I interrupted with a question.
Let's see, I want to see if that's existing bylaws, any other business, schedule a future meeting. Yeah, that is on our agenda, so we could vote for that.
So just to
make a mo-
recap,
Do we have a,
we have 2 more meetings before we were talking about that
Right.
particular meeting, right? So just to make sure, we already agreed on a 1st and an 8th meeting. That was at a previous date. And just reiterating that.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
at 7:30, right?
and Tim, those meetings are available in Zoom? Oh,
I need to schedule it. I've been doing it when we have our agenda for the next meeting is when I book it. So I've been waiting until we have the agenda.
okay. I didn't know if there's something that they guess you have to check the calendar or whatever, but I guess not. I guess you could have as many as you want on a day, I guess. All right, yeah, I think we have December 1st, and that was at 7:30.
Uh-huh,
And what do we have for the 8th? The same thing?
7:30.
Yes, I have 7:30. Although I'd be happier with 8 just because I have another meeting at 7 that I might be a few minutes late. But hopefully I can get that meeting done fairly quickly.
Yeah, I'd like to keep it at 7:30 if we can,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Well, I don't think you'll suffer for having a quorum if I'm 15 minutes late.
Okay,
Our quorum is 4, right? So,
Right.
Yes.
If I'm 15 minutes later, on that date, it shouldn't be a problem.
Um,
Sam says something.
do we want to pick the December public meeting now? Because that's going to be something we're going to have to advertise. and-
I would be in favor of doing that.
Okay. Do you want to do that at 7:30?
I think that's a reasonable time.
Okay.
Yeah,
And we're proposing it for Wednesday, December the 15th, correct?
Correct.
30.
I'm gonna make a motion for all of them all at once, so,
Yep.
So do we want to stick to 7:30 for the public meeting? Is that a good time for kids, families, life? Should it be earlier, later? Is that? How do we
I
feel?
think earlier runs into dinner.
Mm.
dinner and kids' activities are still happening.
but is
Yeah.
there anything else posted that, happens with the town on Wednesday that day? I mean, I think we should probably not do all of them on a Wednesday. Maybe we'll do the next one on another day, and so we have different days of the week, so if somebody, has an activity on every Wednesday, they're not prohibited from coming in.
There's nothing on the town calendar right now on the public meeting calendar, so.
Okay,
So we'll put ourselves in.
so I'll make a motion that for the next 3 meetings, December 1st, December 8th, and the public meeting, December 15th, all start at 7:30. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, I'll go down the list again. John,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Peter,
aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
and myself, Peter Goodney, aye as well. So unanimous, we have at least those 3 meetings scheduled. And I would like to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Is the football game still on?
Oh, yeah.
That's
I
right.
think-
There it is.
I think you have to move, right?
I know. So, all right, I'm gonna move to adjourn. That's been seconded. We're gonna do another vote, I guess. John,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Cindy, and
Aye.
myself, Peter. Have a good night, folks.
Good night, thank you.